it is a whole body approach. If we're dealing with chronic symptoms, it is always
Yes.
a whole body approach and not just treating something in isolation or in a silo. So your mental health, your gut health, your emotional and physical health, they're all interconnected.
This is the Viva View, the podcast that redefines mental health. I'm your host, Dr. Julie Lopez, and every month we will be destigmatizing mental health with the help of an inspiring guest. Our goal is to empower you in your mental well-being. So let's begin. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome to the podcast today Aditi Manocha, who has so much great experience as a nutritional health practitioner. She does so much for the world in terms of what you can do when you've had an experience of medical gaslighting. And I hope you'll stay until the end because she is going to go over her golden four principles that really help you feel empowered when you have that type of an experience. And we're going to go all into that today. And I'm really excited to have you here and to welcome you here to talk with us on the Viva View.
Oh my God, thank you so much for having me, Julie. It's such a pleasure to be here and talk about, a lot of our shared experiences with the traditional medical system and navigating that to empower ourselves. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes. I know. When I first met you, I was like, oh, I was so happy that Charles introduced us and felt like I'd really found a kindred spirit because I'm just so done with people hearing something from someone in authority and then feeling like they're the crazy ones, there's something wrong with them, or there's nothing wrong with them, and they're making it up in their heads. And I know we're going to get into a bunch of that today, but it goes right along with what we've been talking about here on this podcast, which is that you're not crazy. And actually, science has come a long way. We have a lot more tools, we have a lot more resources, we have a lot more options for actually changing what we feel like in our day to day, in terms of our mood, in terms of our mental health, in terms of our physical health. And I know that aligns really deeply with your mission and your work at Head to Heal, which, by the way, I love that name. You guys, it's spelled head, like your head, to heel. So you might think of the heel of your foot, but it's to heal, Heal. And it's so beautiful. We're all designed to heal. Our human system is designed to heal.
This is
So,
true. Yeah. If we give our body half a chance, it does heal. And sometimes it needs just that instead of, my favorite trigger, which is like your labs are fine when you're feeling anything but fine. And so giving our body an opportunity to actually take a step back and realize that, okay, I know something's missing. Let me acknowledge this and then let me find a way out of this position that I'm in.
yes. So let's start there. Let's talk about medical gaslighting. Some of our listeners may not know what that means and what that is. And you just mentioned labs, which is, of course, sending your blood out to get results back. And can you tell us a little bit about what medical gaslighting is?
So, in my experience and what I see with a lot of my clients is that they've been to a number of doctors who have run a bunch of tests on them, and they haven't been able to come up with anything conclusive or definitive. So they end up telling my clients or me in the past that, oh, everything's fine. We've done everything we could. You're fine. There's nothing wrong with you. And at that time, you're almost hoping something is wrong and comes up in the labs because you're not feeling fine, right? I had a friend in the past who said, well, I'm so glad they found low iron in my blood work because I would have been devastated had they said, everything's fine, we don't know what to do with you, which is what happens to a lot of people. And they're like, oh, it's all in your head. Here's some, you
Oh
know,
my gosh, that makes me crazy.
here's a box of pills. It's like, antidepressants or some generic painkillers or something over the counter, which may help in the short term, but it's never addressing the root cause. And it's like throwing spaghetti at the wall because the doctors are like, well, if you really want something, here's something, but otherwise, there's nothing wrong with you. It's all in your head.
Of course, people want to hear that something's wrong with them, not because they want something to be wrong with them, but it is so invalidating, right? It's like, I'm a human being. I'm living in my body. I know something's wrong with me. I can tell. I wouldn't be coming to you if something wasn't wrong, right? And they're basically say, when they say there's nothing wrong, they're basically invalidating your experience, right? And that phrase, it's all in your head. What does that mean? Like you made it up?
Yeah, you're imagining this. Oh, it's probably just stress and uh eat better, get some exercise, and you'll be fine. And that's not the explanation somebody is looking for at that time, right? It's
Oh
like,
my gosh.
yeah,
Honestly, I think that even when you said it, I could just start to feel my blood boil because I think that's what I'm most passionate about is people not feeling like they're crazy. If you're getting data, you're getting the data for a reason. And you started to mention your own health journey. Would you be okay with sharing a little bit of your passion and what got you into this work in the first place?
sure. Yeah. So I am a gut and hormone nutrition coach because I went through a lot of gut and hormone related challenges in my own health journey. I have this condition called PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. Terrible name because it affects not just the ovaries, but the entire body, right? And the conventional medical system is only focused on the ovary part of it and giving you pill after pill to
Mm.
further block your communication between the ovaries and the brain. Anyway, so I've
I can tell there's a lot in there. We're going to circle back to that. Okay, go on.
yeah, there's a lot of like doctors I went to who simply said, "Oh, your labs are fine. Here's a pill just because you have PCOS. It will regulate your period and you'll feel better." They never addressed all the anxiety and mental health challenges that I was struggling with, or the fact that I couldn't keep food down, other than like 3 to 5 safe foods that I had identified at the time, or that my sleep was struggling, or that my whole body composition was changing in a not so nice way, and nobody wanted to talk to me about, and they just said, oh, it's just PCOS. Why don't you try eating a little less and exercising to lose some weight, and here's another box of pills, right? And which is without even knowing if I was already like doing 10 things to like manage my health, right? It was like very, here's the 5 things we have guidelines to talk to you about. We don't care about the rest of the stuff. Here's a box of pills, off you go.
Yes. So listen to what she's saying, you guys. This is the warning. This is the warning that you're getting blown off. Here's some pills. Get better sleep. You should exercise. Have your nutrition. Bye.
That's
Right? It's like a very prescriptive, like factory. Like you're not I mean, we are so complicated. Just don't even get me started on how individually complex each human system is. That is just not okay.
exactly. It's not a generic condition. All our bodies are responding to things differently, whether it's PCOS or hypothyroidism or even IBS or diabetes. Like these are the things that I
Yes.
uh, found myself navigating
How
when
about chronic fatigue? We have a lot.
oh my
We've had
God.
some great success with some of the stuff we do with anything inflammatory, honestly, in the system. Um,
Yeah, yeah. And people are like, oh, this is just general malaise. You probably are just stressed out. And I'm like, well, it has to have an explanation. Like everybody is in stressful jobs these days, but not everybody is feeling as crappy as, I think I am right now because I don't see anybody else falling apart,
yeah.
right? And the people who do are never like empowered to talk about it in public places or in work settings, because then it's seen as a sign of weakness. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
such a terrible road. And you better believe, listen to what she just said. Listen to all those things that were just piled on. You think that leads to depression?
Of course.
Feeling low self-esteem, right? Like, oh, I don't even know myself. Like, oh, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm fine, but I don't feel fine. But this person in authority, fine. It's a really tough recipe for other bigger mental health struggles. And I know you said you've seen a lot of that in your
Yes.
practice.
Anxiety and depression often are coexisting with a lot of these chronic conditions for exactly the reasons you mentioned, like low self-esteem, second guessing your own understanding of your body, and also a lot of time like side effects from long-term use of medications, which,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, which is another can of worms. We'll probably take another episode
Yes.
go into that. But yeah, a lot of women I work with, or young people I work with are like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I used to be a healthy, happy teenager, and now I'm on like five different pills to get through the day, and I don't know how to get out of this, right? And doctors tell me my labs are fine, and yet I have all these pills. So how do I get out of this?
Oh my gosh, that's a terrible situation to be in. And obviously, there are lots and lots of people in that situation. So hopefully, they'll get to hear this podcast because my next golden question, well, you started to talk about your history, and obviously, I always have a particular preference for practitioners who, aren't just operating in their area without personal experience. And so that actually means a lot to me. You're not just, taking this approach like someone's just a one more kind of anonymous person. You understand from your own personal experience the complexity of, first of all, symptoms and struggle, and then the complexity of solutions. So I really love that about you. And I think it really shows in the type of work you do and the compassion you bring to each and every person that you work with. But what would you say in general are the options that people have if they're in this kind of particular situation and maybe they're hearing this and saying, whoa, I've had that conversation with my doctor, the blow off conversation. What would you recommend for them?
Sure. So my first thing would be that it is a whole body approach. If we're dealing with chronic symptoms, it is always
Yes.
a whole body approach and not just treating something in isolation or in a silo. So your mental health, your gut health, your emotional and physical health, they're all interconnected. So just throwing pills at one aspect of it is definitely not the solution that has worked for me or the people I see, because they've already tried that. I already tried that. I went by the book for many years, right? So,
Oh my gosh, heartbreak, many years, right?
many
That
years.
means many years of struggle too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, close to 2 decades before I found a holistic practitioner that I worked with, and which was a life-changing experience for me. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back to school so that I can, pay this forward,
Right.
empower
Right.
other people to find similar tools. And it could range from, non-talk therapy like you are doing in your wonderful practice, and there is so much of an emotional regulation component to it. I also have found like great care in acupuncture for myself, and sometimes even in chiropractic care, because we're all carrying a lot of our stress and emotions in our body, and especially in our back and shoulders and hips. And so acupuncture, yoga, chiropractic care, these are some tools that I've really benefited from. And also, I tell my clients this often, that a lot of our solutions are hidden in our daily routine and how we navigate our day to day, right? Whether it's our
Love that.
stress response to something at work or in our personal relationships or our morning routine. What is the nutrition we're putting in our body, not just in terms of food, but also the information we are taking in from social media, from news, from the people we surround ourselves with, and what is the frequency of the clothes that we're wearing, which is sometimes an abstract thought for a lot of people, but our clothes are frequency too, right? So if we're covered in natural fabrics like cottons and linens. Anyway, different topic, but there's so much to
But
it.
I think it's really important because I think it speaks to the complexity of our human system. It is not innocuous
Yeah,
how we interface with our environment, what
yeah,
our cells are taking in, what chemicals we're coming into contact with on our skin, which is the largest organ in our body, and it's porous. It
yeah,
takes in information, what we smell, what we ingest.
yeah.
It's not right. It's not nothing, right? It's lots
Well,
of
it's
data.
our second mouth. The skin is our second mouth, and we're taking in so much with skincare and artificial fragrances and cleaning products, and even the utensils we cook with, we're taking in a lot of microplastics through scratch non-sticks and what have you. So we're inhaling so much around us. So then mold becomes an issue too. So anyway, I go through a lot of these modalities of understanding what could be wrong with you know, the insides of the human body and why it is reacting the way it is. And it could be ranging from just being not just, I don't want to minimize it, but it could be being in a stressful job and how that is affecting your mental health and even your digestion, right? And how it could be a cumulative effect of being on ultra processed foods for decades without knowing how to take care of yourself and nourish your body, how to start with simple steps there. So there's a lot that goes into it if a person is convinced that they need a change and they just need to figure out how to start.
I love that you just made it much more simple because I could imagine people listening and starting to feel pretty overwhelmed. And I know that is true. I don't often talk about the complexity of what I do in detail with my clients. I'll answer questions if they ask them, but I notice they'll get very, very overwhelmed because honestly, our body has more synapses in it than there are stars in 1,500 Milky Way galaxies.
Oh my God.
It's so
I
complex, right?
totally, yeah, yeah, it's
And
insane.
we're so complex, and it really speaks to this that, of course, day after day, moment after moment, if you're interfacing things that are like toxic to our system on all these different levels, it's going to have a cumulative effect. And I think what's more important to simplify things is that you hold all this knowledge and you have these more complex tools and mapping so that you can treat each person as an individual and say, hey, come on in. I'm not going to just tell you these four things and give you pills and send you on your way. Let's actually slow it down and do some more complex diagnostic work to get a bigger picture of all of the inputs coming into your body. And you haven't even mentioned, I just know this, that people are different. Like 10 people could be in the same family, eating the same food in the same environment with the same parenting and the same whatever. And one person is super sensitive, like a high empath, like takes in data on any level
Sure.
differently than someone else who's a little more rough and tumble and not as porous in terms of what they're taking in on any level. And so it gets really complicated really fast. So I'm grateful that there are people like you that have these more sophisticated tools to not send someone away just saying, oh, you're making it up.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's a great point you bring up because when I talk about mold or indoor air pollution to some of my clients, they're like, well, nobody else in my household is having this issue. And I'm like, well, everybody is reacting to the same environment differently and at different times, right? Maybe
Yes.
the person I'm talking to is the first one to notice tangible changes in their um in how their body feels. And
Right. Different sensitivity levels. Yeah.
exactly,
Or
exactly,
awareness or body awareness.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and a lot of times people just assume that the deterioration they're experiencing is simply because of aging, and I'm like, oh my God, that's so incorrect because I am a lot healthier now than I was 10 years ago because I have a lot more information
Yeah.
about how to stay healthy and be healthy on a day-to-day basis than I did a decade ago.
Oh
So
my gosh.
so
Yes.
like age is not the factor here in a lot of chronic conditions. It's about a cumulative effect of everything we've experienced. And that could be early on in life and that could be much later in life. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I know I'll just say for myself personally, because I've gone through menopause, which was such a rocky road, and hormones are a major factor for people of any age, right? We start really having big hormonal changes and effects in our teenage years, and it goes on. And of course, you have different hormonal impacts if you're very angry, right? Cortisol, progesterone, testosterone, like it changes, or like very stressed, like those are like adrenaline, like all of these things have a big impact on how we're feeling and doing. So I love that a bunch of your solutions also incorporate an understanding of hormone health, which is really, really important.
100%. I mean, when I found out that cortisol can not just be super high, but also eventually crash and have you can have low cortisol, which, affects how you wake up in the morning and how many times you hit snooze before finally getting out of bed. I was mind blown, right? That people can have low cortisol. That means your adrenals have been shot and your body's completely depleted and exhausted, right? And then your progesterone's also low because progesterone's a calming hormone. And if your progesterone's low, your cortisol's like off balance, either too high or too low, your other hormones are going to be affected too, right? So you're not going to be like feeling your best energetic, productive, chirpy self. And how you absorb all the nutrition from your food or your environment is going to take a hit too. So nothing is in isolation. And once I learned how to connect the pieces, which is what I often say, that I help my clients connect the dots in their health puzzle, right? Because a lot
I
of
love that. You help them connect the dots in their health puzzle. That is quote worthy. I love that so much.
you. Thank you. Because they have like some very useful insights, but in silos, in piecemeals from different practitioners they've seen. And nobody's told them how it's connected, how one piece of the puzzle is connected to the other, how their thyroid and PCOS is connected to their cortisol, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love all the empowering work that you're doing on the planet. It's amazing. So it's like this is the anti-aging answer, right? Think about how much people spend on trying to look and feel youthful. And here's the solutions that actually get to the root causes. This is the solution or the opportunity to combat mental medical gaslighting that people can experience.
Yeah.
And there's too many people that just hear the news and they, on their own, end up feeling broken or crazy. We talked about mental health, right? This has an impact greatly on people's mental health. And again, it breaks my heart to think that you went 2 decades kind of struggling with all these symptoms before you started getting answers. And so, yes, I'm a big fan. And then one other fun fact, some of you may know I have an engineering background and I worked as an engineer for a while. Well, Aditi has a law background and also you did something else too. What else were you
Is that
doing?
master's in public policy? That's
Yeah. And yes, and then these life things happen and you get answers and you start wanting, you're like, wow, this is so much more meaningful. This is what I was meant to do. And so I just love that you changed courses on your life and on your work to try to bring the same type of relief that you got to other people. It's beautiful. I love it.
It's really soul satisfying to be able to empower people with this information and guidance. Like I wish I had 20 years ago, but
Yes.
yeah, yeah, better.
Time is a very valuable resource. It's very valuable. It's finite and it's precious. So having decades of struggle with fatigue or health conditions that are being blown off is not okay. So my hat is off to you. And I know people have been waiting to hear about the basic 4-step principle that you encourage people to take when they are on the other end of an experience with a medical doctor where they're about to get that message of here's some pills and go home. So could you talk to us? I think it's called SCORE, SKOR, your 4-step empowerment tool.
That's right. Yeah, Julie. So I think a lot of what I have learned through my own journey can be categorized in this format, right? In this framework, score. And the first is my favorite, which is the diagnostic testing through standardized tests. So S is for standardized testing. There's a lot that the insurance system here can cover if we request for it, right? And sometimes it's not covered in our annuals, and sometimes it is, but we're not really looking for it. So I would say that if somebody is struggling with mental health issues or hormonal ups and downs, then I would say request your doctor to test your vitamin D3, B12, and iron panels. If you are struggling with hormonal ups and downs, definitely request testing for progesterone, testosterone, estrogen levels in the form of estradiol, and cortisol, if possible, right? Which is your stress hormone. So I'm like, there's so much information, even in these basic labs, that can be ordered through the regular channels. These are standard tests. If you need to advocate for them, then so be it, because
Love it.
yeah,
I
yeah,
love it. So, number one is ask for standardized tests. Right there in the office, you can be armed with these. Rewind and listen to what she just said. You can say to the doctor, I want that, please test this, this, and this. I've
that's right.
had too many experiences with a doctor where they're about to send me out the door and I advocate for something and then I end up getting it because
Yeah.
they are well intentioned. They're doing the best that they can. They're just not aware. So sometimes advocating for yourself is the best thing you can do. Okay, that's S. What about the K?
So the K is that always know. So know is the K here, is that you know your body best, right? If something is off your routine or your normal, whether it's your sleep cycle, your sleep quality, your digestion, how you feel in your body, like confident, you can stand and sit straight, or you're just feeling like bloated and comfortable, and you don't know what is off, but something is off. Your energy is lower. You know that better than anybody else, right? And even if somebody comes back to you and tells you your labs are fine, then you ask more questions with the information you already know, right? Because there's so many ranges in normal too. Your labs are normal. Like, what is normal? This is not my normal, right?
Yes.
And my labs are lower than lab numbers are lower than what they used to be, or much higher in the range, especially with something as sensitive as thyroid or estrogen and progesterone that comes up, right? So what is normal? I want to see things relative to my normal and not a general population normal.
I love that. Okay, so K is no. And then I think what's great about that one is you're really taking information that you might say in a sentence,
Mhm.
qualitative information where it's easy for them to say, oh, you don't know. And you can turn it into quantitative information like, this is how much sleep I've been charting it for the last 3 weeks, or this is what I've noticed when I give myself a score each day. Look at the fluctuations. Like you can actually present them with quantitative data about yourself. And I think that's an important thing to remember. I love it.
Exactly. Or something as simple as like, oh, I woke up three times a night in the last 2 weeks, and I'm somebody who never wakes up in the night. So I think something's off. Or I haven't been getting more than 6 hours of sleep. Or I don't feel rested even after being asleep for like 10 hours, right? That's useful
Yeah.
information.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So first is standardized testing, second is know yourself, and the third is know that there are other options in terms of diagnostic tools and of course other therapies. But I found great success, and this was a turnaround point in my own journey when I did the gut and hormone testing through the GI map test and the Dutch test. These are a lot more in-depth in terms of their data collection as well as the analysis that we get about what is going on in our body. So a lot of people around the world are finding deeper insights into what is really going on in their digestive system. Are they carrying some pathogens like parasites or different strains of bad bacteria, or even mold and fungus and candida and other inflammatory agents? Because both you and I are dealing with inflammation in a lot of cases, right? So sometimes we need deeper tools. So there are other options. And I want to put it out there that these are wonderful options that a lot of integrative practitioners have with them. I have a testing partner too, because I'm like, these tests are life-changing,
Oh,
right?
amazing. There's more. If they say, if a medical doctor says this is all the tests we have and they all look fine, no, there's other tests that they may not have access to that are going to give you more complex information. This is not the end of the road. I love that. Okay, so we got SKO. What's the R?
The R is such a reaffirming one for me, is that remember that you're not crazy. If you
Yes. Oh
know
my gosh. Yes.
something's wrong, we will find it. You're not crazy.
Yes. Oh my gosh. We love that and embrace that so much at Viva. And also, of course, one of the reasons we're kindred spirits is we also embrace more sophisticated, more advanced, non-talk based therapeutics that get just better, faster results. And it has to do with the sophistication of the tools and really listening to the body and meeting it with what it needs. So, it was so great to have you here today. I love that tool that you used and shared with us at the end. I love that you're empowering people on the planet. And I'm just so excited for people to hear this episode and start to recognize that there are other options out there.
Yeah, thank you for having me. A pleasure to be here and share all that I know. Yeah.